Hello, hello. You're listening to the Better Workday podcast with me, Niamh Moynihan. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day because she's considering whether or not to move internally within her own company or to look somewhere else. She's been finding that she's not that challenged. She's looking for a change and she's trying to weigh up, what the opportunities are. And so we got onto the topic of personal branding. Now, we didn't call it that, of course. We're just chatting about how she's seen within the company, if the right people in the right places know who she is and what she's capable of. And it struck me that how others know us, and what potential they see in us can play a huge role in our workday in terms of us being invited into opportunities that maybe otherwise we wouldn't be aware of. And so today I just want to talk about personal branding and give you some ideas to assess whether or not your personal brand is being developed by default or design. So as I'm recording this evening time, Loki is snoozing next to me. I often wonder if you can hear him. He's always there, always having a nap. And, at this time of year, I think it's good to talk about reflective topics rather than trying to get one more thing done. And personal branding is one of those things that, I don't know about you, but I never give myself a minute to think about it in terms of my own branding. And definitely when I worked in corporate, I never thought about it. And I didn't think about it until I needed it, until I wanted to get promoted or until I wanted to move department or until I felt I missed an opportunity I thought I would be top of the list for. And so as we wrap up this year, if you're listening to this episode when it's released, and look forward to 2026, I think it's a good time to pause and ask the questions around personal branding or your reputation or however you like to call it, and whether or not you are putting your best foot forward. And indeed, if there's any small tweaks you can make. Now, I am not going to deep dive into how to develop and build your brand in this episode. Again, it's more of a reflective exercise. But one thing I will say is that there's a huge difference between personal branding if you're an employee within an internal organization and if you are a personal brand, i.e. if you are a solopreneur or a freelancer or somebody who is representing their work out in the market. So like for me, my brand is a representation of everything that I do and it's outward facing, so you see who experience it, my clients experience it, and it's very much an external endeavor. Whereas of course, when I was working in corporate, like it didn't really, nobody outside of work really knew what I did and it didn't really matter. So what was more important was what my teammates thought of me, what my manager thought of me and other people within the organization. And so I suppose because it's a bit of a buzzword, I think it's important, first of all, just to remind you to apply this in the context of your work, your job, your situation. Like there's no need for you to focus on branding like an entrepreneur if you are an employee and you're focused on internal promotion. Do you know what I mean? And I think context is very, very important. But with that being said, I have a bit of a formula for branding or reputation or however you like to call it. And that's what I'm going to share with you. And as I discuss it, I'd like you to think how well you are being intentional in each of the areas and if there's anything you could do differently in the weeks and months ahead. So my formula is really simple. It is that your personal brand or your reputation is a mixture of trust plus potential, where potential is your capability multiplied by your interest. So let's break those down. The first thing is trust. People have to trust that when they ask you to do something, you will do it in the way that they expect. And it's neither good nor bad in that sense. It's just people have to trust that when they ask you to do something, they're going to get the response they expect. Otherwise, there's too much uncertainty and people aren't going to take a risk. So I always use the example of a friend who's late. If you have a friend who's always late for things, you will trust that when you book dinner for 8 p.m, they will arrive around 8:10. Okay. And as long as they are consistently late, that aligns with what you expect. Now, if they suddenly turn up early, all of a sudden that trust is broken. I know it's a small situation, but it's true. And so immediately you're probably worried, wondering what has changed. But the next time you arrange to meet with them, you don't know what to expect. Will they be early? Will they be late? Will they be on time? You don't know. And so there's a bit of a risk there. Now, bring that into a work context. If we're not consistent in the way that we deliver our work, and it doesn't have to be perfection all the time, of course, I just mean in the way that we do our work, in the standard, the quality that we deliver things, the timeliness that we have. If we're not consistent in those, then people aren't going to want to risk giving us anything new because they're not even sure what to expect from your current performance, if that makes sense. And so for me, branding, whether internally or externally, it begins with showing up consistently. That does not mean like performing at the exact same level every day, because none of us are like that. Like, we're not machines. We all have variables. But I just mean that we consistently put out our best effort. We show up in the same manner, in the same way. And that, people begin to know what to expect. So for me, obviously, that's me showing up in the same way to my clients all the time, for example. When I was working in corporate, it was me showing up to my own team and to other teams in the same way every time. And that's something that I think if you reflect on it, you might find that you can become more consistent, maybe in a particular area that will strengthen your reputation. So it could be maybe becoming more timely, maybe it could be being less urgent, which I love. Maybe it could be being more considerate, maybe being a more thorough communicator. Like, they're all things that you can focus on to build people's trust that you are that kind of person in the workplace. So that's trust. Basically, what are you doing now? And does the way that you work now build a good expectation for what you could deliver if there was a different opportunity? And then the second part of it is potential. And potential is, again, capability multiplied by interest. Now, capability doesn't mean that you have to be able to do everything immediately all at once, because none of us are that way. We've all learned on the job. We've all taken parts of roles that we had no experience in. And amazingly, we're, of course, able to learn how to do the job and do it well. But it's more capability to grow. So are you demonstrating in your work that you are able to learn new things, that you're able to solve problems, that you're able to recover from mistakes, that you're able to learn new skills, and that you have that growth mindset and that desire to learn and to adapt and to change within work? And so it's more than just demonstrating your current capabilities, which is very important, making sure that people understand what it is you can do, but also showing them that you are also able to do more, even though you haven't done those things yet. And look, there's lots of ways we can do that in the way that we show up at work. And I'm sure that if you reflect on your own daily tasks and the people that you engage with, you will see opportunities, maybe one, to demonstrate your current capabilities a little bit more clearly. And number two, to show people that you do have that growth mindset and you do have that adaptable nature, that you're able to solve problems and to learn new things. But the second part is interest. And this is really important, because you could be the most capable person in the world, but if people don't know you're interested in a certain area, they won't consider you for it. So, for example, I'm really capable in the area of operations, delivery operations, sales operations is my background. I love a spreadsheet, I love data, I love process. But that's not where my interest is at the moment. It's not. So nobody comes to me saying, Niamh, we have a Lean Six Sigma project. We'd love you to kind of come on board and help us with it. Nobody says that. Even the people who know I'd be capable, because I'm showing no interest in that area. Okay. So think of you and where you want to go and kind of the path that you're trying to make for yourself. You know what you're interested in. You know the areas that you want to explore, but do others know it? And like, it could be as simple as, taking an interest in the teams or the areas that are doing the stuff that you want to do, and just showing them that you're curious and having genuine conversations and listening to what they're doing and asking good questions and all that kind of stuff. But whatever it is for you, it's about showing that interest, because being capable is only half the story. Nobody's going to offer somebody to be considered for an opportunity if they don't think they're into it, right? And so that's the formula: trust plus potential, where potential is capability multiplied by interest. And so I'd love for you to, again, just take a few minutes now just to kind of jot down your thoughts. Like, where do you think your brand is or your reputation is at the moment in work? Is it where you want it to be? Is it supporting you in your current role? And is it supporting you in the roles that you're thinking about down the line, whether that's lateral moves, moving up the organization, maybe having a pivot completely, maybe it's switching out into a different company, like whatever it is you're envisioning for the next, we'll say 3 years, 5 years, maybe even, although it's hard to plan that far ahead, I think, but 3 years is what you're doing now is setting you up for success on that. Because the thing with brands is, like, and this goes for every kind of brand or reputation, from big companies down to us mere individuals. Like, it takes time to build, develop, and refine our brand, our reputation. It doesn't happen overnight. They're years in the making. And so I think it's quite inspiring to think that changes you can make today can actually pave the way for you to have a more successful career, not just next week, next month, or next year, but actually years down the line. And yeah, small changes you make today can have a really big impact. So if this has, struck a thought with you, if it got you thinking, if it's got you writing things down in a notebook, I would love to know. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Let me know what you're doing in terms of your personal brand, and if there's any changes that you think you're going to make as a result of this podcast. And while you're there, actually, if there's anything that you think you want me to cover in the next 12 months, let me know, because I'd love to get your suggestions. As always, if you're finding this podcast helpful, I'd really appreciate your support in helping me reach more people and helping them create a better workday. The easiest way you can do this is share it with a friend. And then you can also subscribe yourself to make sure you never miss an episode, leave a rating or a review. And all that does make a difference for me and for this show. So thanks for doing that. And until next time, stay well and have a better workday.